You'd be surprised what comes up in conversation when paleontologists spend long days in the field. Some of it is deep time in ancient ecosystems. Some of it is, well, trying to remember our fourth favorite hat. This is Fourth Favorite Hat, a look into real dig site chatter of the Montana Dinosaur Center. Each episode brings you the work, the stories, the arguments, the questions, and the odd tangents that emerge when you put scientists, shovels, fossils, and too much sun in the same place. And yes, every guest still has to answer the only question that really matters. What's your fourth favorite hat? Let's get started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andy, and my fourth favorite hat is my South Dakota Badlands dad cap.
I'm Brett, and my fourth favorite hat is my Lake Champlain Lake Monsters baseball hat.
I'm Bryce, and my fourth favorite hat is my wide-brimmed Denver Zoo hat. And today, we're joined by a special guest, Sophia Sparklin.
Hi, good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, and my fourth favorite hat, I have it. Yeah, too bad you can't see it. This is a leather, I guess, maybe a bomber hat. There's something one would wear in an airplane with
Oh, yeah.
open
Yeah.
toes.
Oh, that is a good one.
That's a good
That's a
hat.
fantastic hat.
And you know what? It has saved me so many times when we have those cold fronts coming through here, and
Oh,
you never know
you
when
need
that
like
happens.
a reliable, quick grab hat.
Yes, exactly. So.
Yeah. Well, Sophia, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, what all you do, and then sort of how you're kind of related to the museum as it is.
Oh, yes. Thank you. My name is Sophia Sparklin. I currently live in Highwood, Montana, another small town, but I got married in Shodo, Montana, so not far from you.
Oh, okay.
And we always take our guests into your neck of the woods. It's such a beautiful region. The way I'm related to the museum, that's a great question. So we have known museum staff for a few years, just sort of follow running organizations here in Central Montana and being in some of the same workshops and things like that. And I also have two little kids. So even before this project ever came about, we've done the dig tours, and
Oh, yeah.
my kids still speak about that, and we're still in awe of the dinosaur and the little egg nest. And
Yeah.
we all collectively worry about your eggs.
You know
sitting in that
what? You're not the
landscape.
only one.
Yes, but yeah, my role now is as the architect, as you look at the next phase for the museum and the exciting expansion.
Yeah, so listeners, you may have heard us talk about how we're planning on expanding the museum, taking the next step to house more fossils, display more and higher quality exhibits. And Sophia is helping us with that. She is the architect running this project. And basically, I know you can't see the renders because that's not how podcasts work, but there's some really impressive things in the pipeline. And I guess a question sort of is, how do you start by figuring out, how to make an expansion?
Mm-hmm.
What's
Yeah.
the first step?
Well, honestly, the biggest step is lots of listening because we don't want to come into a project with our own preconcept of what this is going to be. That would miss so many things. So that was definitely the first step, and we had some community sessions like on Zoom and in person. And there's always many stakeholders and people with different hats on.
Hmm.
For example, we've got the science people in the organization,
Yep.
and you've got people who have to run an organization, make it financially feasible. And then in this case, very fortunate to have some grant funding, but we also know exactly what those
Yep.
rules are and what we can and cannot do within that current funding.
And you bring up a great point, like people with the different roles. I guarantee you, if myself, Brett, and Bryce were charged with making the expansion, we just want more room for dinosaur bones. Is that safe to say, lads?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Pretty much.
them
So
up on display.
if we had to draw the sketch, I don't think it would be anything as good as what you were showing us.
Oh,
Nothing
well,
coherent.
I would
yeah.
add a big square next to what we already have and say bone room.
Yeah, well, that is not so far off. So you saw the phase one of what we're doing. We recognize that you've got a phenomenal collection that grows every year,
Mhm.
and the potential to become a facility that can really celebrate that is clearly there. Right now, what we had to do from there is, I guess there was, in theory, you could fill probably 20 times the facility you have today. But to go there, the facility, the operations, the funding, even the knowledge about all the things you offer, that's kind of a process that grows with it. Operating a large facility is not so easy, but we did look at your entire site, even some of the neighboring lots, see what might be there, and broke it down into, okay, well, we know we have this piece right now, but what can happen if we get future funding? Like, where can we fulfill this idea of, let's say,
Mhm,
20,000 square feet, starting with, something much closer to 2,000 square feet.
mhm. Now, you're handling expansions for a multi-floor building. Do you find it more useful to start expanding the bottom floor or start looking at what the top floor has to offer? Where do you start?
That's a great question. So in your case, we looked at the whole site and
Mhm.
more as adding on footprint. In some cases, we design buildings for future addition of more floors up higher. In this case, though, we were looking at the site and kind of growing more outwards.
When we saw you last at the museum, sort of mapping stuff around, we noticed you had some really cool tools with you.
Uh-huh.
Um, Being paleontologists, we kind of co-op tools from different careers to make fit ours. What tools were you working with and how do they work? Maybe we'll end up getting some of those.
Oh, yes. The technology has really helped us out here over the last few years. So the surveying equipment has gotten a lot faster, more accurate. So what we used is LiDAR scanner
Okay.
that does both LiDAR, so depth measurement with full color mapping. So you end up with what we call a digital twin, an environment that we can virtually visit. We can literally put like a 3D headset on and walk through your facility.
Oh,
And
that's
we do
cool.
that actually in order to remember some of the things that we would previously have had to go back to. And then this thing also generates a point cloud. But absolutely, I wish your listeners see that, but we could wander through that and just admire all your exhibit in great detail.
Because we do use a bit of LiDAR. It's much less intensive than what you had access to, but
We use it for mapping at our dig site for like
yeah, so
Yeah.
Yes, fantastic.
fossils sometimes, like so we can actually look at a 3D render of a fossil, like almost like take it out of the wall and like look at it, rotate it around. It really help when we're trying to identify what something is when we can only see it from like some angles.
Yes. So I that is the same technology and it's so fun to play with those
oh
and
yeah.
to have that, for even for documentation purposes.
We have
We
a few maps of the dig site as we expose new fossils. We'll add to the LiDAR scan to try to show that, but the trade-off, we have a portable one through an
mhm,
iPad.
mhm.
It's not the best
Yeah,
there's going to
High
be,
yeah,
quality.
but it's
Mm.
yes. We
cheap
we
and
have
portable.
we have experimented with those iPad ones in the
Mhm.
past, and they work for very small space.
Yeah,
The bigger it gets, more accurate.
You need.
yeah.
Uh,
But that's always going to be one of the fun trade-offs we have to work with is can I fit this in the car and then bring fossils back too?
Yeah, yeah. Well, our scanner actually folds up into a backpack, a
Oh,
tripod.
we're gonna have to keep our eyes peeled for that then. Bryce
Yeah.
actually just picked up some new total station equipment for us.
Mhm.
Finally getting a upgrade, the total station, stuff that road surveyors work
Oh, yes,
use.
yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's
Bryce,
still
did you
not quite the newest out there, but it's quite a few steps up from the ones we used to have at least.
Yeah, it's probably 10 years old, but compared to the one we were using, it feels like R2D2.
Oh
Ah,
yeah, like with the staff, you don't even have to have like the one facing lens. It seems like it's just like a 360 facing lens, so it doesn't even really matter which direction you like tilt
yes,
it or whatever.
yes. No, it's fantastic. So we get to make decisions, and with our technology, how much of an angle we want it to pick up and how detailed. These things didn't used to work outside, and that's been a big for the last 5 years. That
W-
daylight, middle of the site. The only thing that doesn't work is when it's very windy, vibration
Oh, yeah.
messes with
Which,
it.
Yeah.
we live in Montana. It's never windy, right?
Mhm.
Not
That's
even
always the
once.
struggle.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are days where we just can't get the total station going because the wind will not let it.
So I have a question. Obviously, you're designing this, but I can't imagine you do a lot of museum expansions or anything like that. Has there been any like unique challenges that you've faced with the museum versus like a regular building when trying to like design the floor space and everything? I know one thing you mentioned a little bit before we started this was having wall support for like heavier rocks and some stuff like
hmm
that. Is that
hmm
something like unique challenge you have to face?
There are quite a few unique aspects of museum. I used to work in Arizona where we did a lot more public facilities like that. Here in Montana, we had to become jacks of all trades, meaning
Hmm.
doing everything in terms of
Uh-huh.
buildings. almost everything. But we love museums because they really are something that the public, has access to. Your community will attract more business through it. We can all learn from a visit. So it's a very special project. I guess if you compare to an average structure as a public facility, the building codes kick in a little harder because there is just an expectation of safety. When it's your barn or your home, that's a little different. And there's also an expectation that you may occasionally have lots of people in this facility, which dials up more of the code. In your case, this business case versus science case too, we made some design decisions that have to do with visibility to hopefully attract more walk-ins from traffic,
Yeah, that's
routing
always nice.
spontaneous stop and get them into the door, not just pulling over.
Hmm.
Currently, we've heard some people stop, like the dinosaur, take a picture, and move on. So we really want to bring that part of the business up because it is also a little less staffing intensive than the dig tours, a little less equipment heavy with, less
Hmm.
vehicles, all of that required for people to just walk the museum, maybe do like activity there, hopefully buy lots of stuff to gift shop.
That's always the hope.
Yeah, yeah.
I will say with museums, and you can tell me if I'm saying something incorrect, but I feel like a challenge can be that the architecture of the museum can become an exhibit itself.
Yeah, definitely. There are museums that people go to because of the architecture.
There's
Like,
a museum in South Dakota, the Journey Museum, where it's built to simulate tectonic plates coming together.
mm,
And it's very cool, but when I talked with the people who work there,
mhm.
they give me all of the architectural issues with building something like that, where they're like,
Yep.
"Oh, it's
There,
impossible to regulate the heating because of the
yeah.
shape."
Well, so how I would answer that is we architects like to set ourselves a challenge. Honestly, I mean, I know there's some very famous architects
Mhm.
out there that famously leak, but I don't think that really is something that anybody would do anymore. So all of these have to function, right?
Yeah.
They the air conditioning, heating, all of those systems. We work with quite a team of engineers to get that layered in. That also has to function.
Mhm.
Now the question is there something that it can do beyond that? Beyond that box that we talked about earlier, and can it should be a beautiful background for your piece, right?
Yeah.
And in the past, we haven't had UV filters, museum grade UV filters on windows, for example. So
Oh,
you
yeah.
would not have had much glazing with actual bones on the other side of it, right?
Mhm.
Maybe for a
Hmm.
cast, no problem. For something that isn't real, but you would have to be very careful with any light. So that there again, technology has come a long way. So we can do that and kind of try to combine both that protection of exhibits, the experience of it, give it space, beautiful light, and work through that. Now, if we can afford all the glazing, that's going to be
Yeah.
the next step as we
Mhm.
work through it and maybe a little less.
Now, you don't have to name names, but have you ever been given a project where somebody's like, "I want," and just gives you something ridiculous and you've had to say no?
Well, this is not usual. So it's a human nature thing that people get very attached to there is, I think, again, like a human need to create. And I think we all have it, not just creative people. I think we all have it. So it's a precious thing. So we almost as default always are faced with some people have some form of preconcept idea. And sometimes it comes plan they sketched out. I will say there's two kinds of architects. There's some who will just take it without questions, put it in the box,
Mhm.
and whether it's good or bad or works or not, and was what they were told to do, they just make that happen. For us, we get a lot more curious about, what's behind that, what is so awesome or so important, or what are the values and priorities. And often these things are not an either or, but there are many variations in the mix that a lot of people never thought of. So in an ideal world, we play together,
Yeah.
and then we bring the clients along to be part of that discovery. We hope that we did a good job listening and people know if you listen or not. If you fake listen, people pick up on that. We take that and then we kind of take them on a little bit of a journey of possibilities and discovery. And often there will be then additional light bulb moments where they're like, this works so much better. But they still feel a certain amount of ownership in it. It's not us who gave that to them. You just go with it.
Mhm.
So that's how we work. But again, different firms will have a little bit of a
Kind of funny the way you described it, because it's also kind of a similar thing that happens in science oftentimes, where people will get like attached to their first idea,
oh
and then
yes.
later on, like people will do more research and like kind of help come to different conclusions as people look at evidence.
People
Yes.
still hang on to. So there's the fellow Pachycephalosaurus, the thick-skulled guy, and the guy who discovered it said a singular sentence saying, "I wonder what their head was for. Maybe they butted heads." And people love that idea so much, and they keep going with it. And it's like that is how that animal would die,
Mhm.
but they're attached to
Yes,
it.
yes, it's a strong thing. Like the story can go a long way or something like that. And it's hard. It's hard to be scientifically objective about it. Now, what we do, sometimes I wish it was pure science. The architectural challenge is it's at too open of a problem state to have a linear A plus B kind of results, like the only one option.
Mhm.
There's always variation or along the way, and there's always compromise in this. I want this, but I only have this much money, like
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
most common compromise. And so we have to work through that and get buy-in. And yeah, this unfortunately this first phase had to shrink, shrink and shrink as we were getting more cost estimates and more reality check,
Yeah.
which was painful. But I think even though it changed it, a lot of the conversation that happened earlier on, they still shaped it their
Mhm.
own.
I was wondering, so what sort of projects do you like most commonly work on in Montana?
Ah, that is a great question. So we are a public benefit corporation, so not quite a nonprofit, but it's a corporation type that doesn't just measure profit, measures impact, social, environmental, health, these kinds of things.
Mhm.
But again, because Montana has so many different things and it's not a huge market where you can become great at the single thing, the way it plays out is different. For me, anything community minded is a huge deal, right? I personally don't want to be doing the multi-million, nowadays tens of millions of dollars villa somewhere.
Hmm.
I
Mhm.
don't want to do any starter castles either because that's just a different product, and some people do those things great. Now we do a lot of existing work, adapt, reuse, or building such. Those are always fun because they tend to be kind of in the core of a community. They tend to improve what's already there, what might have been pretty empty or underutilized for a while. And then, frankly, when I love the historic buildings have beautiful bones,
Mhm.
and it's really fun to find creative ways to bring those back to being my yeah. As mentioned earlier, my background from Arizona, a lot of that was community and public work. A lot of it was campus work. Occasionally, I get campus work here, and it's fun because for me personally, that's the easy stuff because I've done it so many times.
Mhm.
We just opened the new student wellness center down at University of Montana Western Dillon. That was kind of a back to the roots project. Yeah, little
Uh,
bit of everything.
yeah. Is there anything you wanted to tell the listeners before we wrap up? Anywhere they can find you or anything?
Well, I hope all the listeners know where to find you and take some time to explore the museum. I know right now it's off hours, so appointmentally, but
Mhm.
all your activities, and I know you're expanding on offering is this year, so check that out. For us, we are headquartered in downtown Great Falls, currently looking at for potentially a new building too.
Okay, small
So
world.
we're on that journey to official yet. And then we've got a team with people also all over Montana and who's and Colorado who just
Well,
yeah.
Sophia, thank you so much for joining us. And to the listeners, as always, I've been Andy.
I'm Brett.
I will be Bryce.
Thank you guys, and have a great day.
Thank you so much.
That's one conversation down, and there's millions more waiting for us out in the ancient dirt. If you want to join the crew on their next auditory adventure, subscribe to the Fourth Favorite Hat, the Montana Dinosaur Center podcast, available wherever podcasts are distributed. You can follow the museum on social media at TM Dinosaur Center, visit tmdinosaurcenter.org, or swing by the museum in Bynum, about 80 minutes north of Great Falls on Highway 89. Thanks for listening.